Welcome everyone to Club E St. Paul in our snowstorm. So I know that's over, but it's still in my memory. I'm Chum Struve, if I have not had a chance to meet you. And just a couple quick announcements before we have our exciting speaker. We have 3 events coming in May. May 3rd at the Minneapolis Club. They're going to have board readiness, using your expertise and thought leadership to create value for corporations through board service. And I think I saw Rick here. If you have any questions about the Minneapolis Club, Club E events, we'll be back here May 18th, which is always the 3rd Wednesday of the month. And our surprise topic will be emailed out to all of you later this week. May 24th, Upsize and Club E will have Grow or Grow. It's a workshop to help entrepreneurs prepare either to grow or to make a go decision. So we want to thank our sponsors, as always, for our events, Olsen Thiel & CPAs, a regional accounting and consulting firm, Schwegman, Lundberg, and Wustner, IP attorneys for tech companies, the Irish Titan and e-commerce digital agency, Sunbelt Business Brokers of Minnesota, helping you to buy and sell your business. And we have a couple representatives from Sunbelt, I think here, right? Over there. And my company, ID Shield and Legal Shield, providing identity theft and legal protection. I'd like to introduce our speaker. He's spoken at Club E Minneapolis, and he was a huge hit, so I wanted to bring him over here to St. Paul. His background includes decades of senior management, senior executive roles in global growth organizations. He's conducted business in 15 countries outside of North America, serves on multiple boards, chairs the CRO Executive Roundtable, and holds both engineering and business degrees from the University of Minnesota. He has done sales all over the world, and his revenue as a system process does work globally. I read many of his glowing recommendations for his work from presidents and executives of very large companies, and so I'm excited about having him here. In the 3 years I've been running Club E, I've never had so many people come to me before the presentation to say that they're so excited about this topic. So we clearly all need help, right? So, so with that, let's all welcome Carl.
Thanks, Chum. Thank you, Chum. I've got to stay over here so we don't interfere with the electrical connections, or I'll be vaporized and Scotty will beam me up in 20 minutes or something. I'm going to be your tormentor for the next half hour. We'll try to make this productive. There's just one ground rule, and that is if you have a question, please raise your hand. I'm just not a subscriber of the concept where speakers say, hold your questions to the end and we'll deal with it. When I was in the seats, in your seat, I'd have a question, and by the time we got to the end, I couldn't remember it. And so let's deal with it while it's important to you. Let's just handle it that way. Also, it says CRO Executive Roundtable. CRO stands for Chief Revenue Officer. Let's just clear that issue before we get started. How many in the group today have the title in their business Chief Revenue Officer? 1. Very good. The others are dismissed. No, that's not the case. You're at the right program. Let's take a look at what the role of the Chief Revenue Officer is in business today, and then we'll get started. We'll just clear that right now. So, what's a CRO? This is a C-level suite position that really started to gain traction about 15 years ago. It's increasing and growing today. Let's take a quick look at the job description, and we'll compare it to what yours looks like. Now, when regards to CROs, every company has a Chief Revenue Officer. Everyone does today. Let's take a look at the job description. And I'll try to stand out of the way here so you can see it. The executive whose responsibilities include, got to fund the business, deliver a profit, and grow the company. Aliases for that position in most companies are CEO, president, owner. With that definition, how many CROs do we have here today? Okay, you came to the right program. All right, we're on board. Let's get started. Topic today, what do you really sell? It's fairly easy. If you go to your website, you can read and see and do all kinds of things. If you look at your invoices, you have all kinds of technical terms inserted in there to explain what you're delivering and getting paid for. But today we're going to look at it from the opposite side of the table, from the prospect side, not from your side. It's always easy to make it inside out and explain what you do, but let's take a look from the prospect side and see if we can make some connections there that will help you in those opportunities you get with clients to introduce your business, potential clients. So, we're going to start with how does a prospect decide? And the options here are limited. Do we make, as humans, decisions intellectually or emotionally? What do you think? Emotionally, that's correct. The behavioral science people figured this out for us decades ago. And the rule here is that all humans make decisions emotionally, but here's the caveat, and they justify them intellectually. That's really how we do it. That's our normal. So, let's understand that. That becomes a ground rule. We can't change that going forward. Any questions? Everybody okay with that? Good. We're going to come back to that. This is a chart that Forrester's put together about the evolution of prospect behavior. Today, with all of the disruption that's active and underway in the marketplace, prospects have, and if you, I don't know if I can, yeah, it does work. If you take a look at the various routes that an inbound, awareness-oriented suspect becomes a client and the path they can travel to learn about your business, learn about your product or service, learn about your company, it's almost an infinite combination available today. If you think about all your electronic media, social media, you have sites that are complaint sites about your business or product. There's endorsement sites, there's blog posts. The interesting part, they list, let me go back here. If I can get the laser to work, down at the bottom, they list a couple of the reference points that they're using in their chart. Only a few of those do you own or control. There's quite a bit of activity in the marketplace about what you do that's not under your direct engagement or coordination. So a prospect, if they want to make the commitment, in many cases, by the time they get in front of one of your sales reps or in front of you, they know a lot more about your business than the traditional marketplace expectation. That's assuming they want to make the commitment to do that kind of research. We can't change it. It is the way it is today. It's often referred to in the media as digital disruption, and that's only continuing. That's not going to be something that's going to end in the foreseeable future. So another part of understanding how the prospect views your business, we know how they make decisions. We now understand that they have an almost unlimited number of options for resourcing information about you and your business. Let's move forward. It always brings up the question, what's the role of features and benefits? And when I first started in sales, first training program I went through was all about having to memorize the features and benefits of the computer systems we were selling so that passing the sales training program was the ability to regurgitate it at the final exam and quote all of the memory speeds and disk capacities and all the things right off the top of your head. The interesting part of that is, and in the illustration you're seeing here, is that the feature benefit role is done. You know, it's just boring. People that want to learn about your features and benefits can know that in advance, but let's track back to how we make decisions. The problem with features and benefits is they're just not emotional. There's nothing emotional about features and benefits. So when we start to say, let's look at your business, what do you sell from the prospect side of the table, feature benefits aren't part of that. Not for getting to the decision. So when we talk about the disconnect of features and benefits, we'll just go through this quickly, and this is the last slide about features and benefits. What features and benefits really are your reasons why the prospect should do business with you. But they're not theirs. Subtle difference here. These are my reasons why you should do business with us. But the prospects decide to do business with you or not do business with you for their reasons. That's the nemesis of selling called qualifying, and we have to get into that. Today we're just going to touch on it. Another issue here, there's 4. If we only use the valuable windows of time, back to the chart about all the paths they have to learn about your business, what it really means is the one-on-one, point-to-point connect times between you and the prospect, they're really limited. You know, many of you know how hard it is to get an appointment, get a discussion, even to get someone on the phone to talk about your business. So those opportunities, those windows to have direct connect, we really need to have our A game in place because we may not get another swing at it. So in the context of just staying with features and benefits, what has to happen is the prospect has to translate your features and benefits into their world, where they live and work, to understand what you do. Well, we all know what it looks like after the recession when you go into a company where there used to be 5 or 6 people in a department. Business has grown 30% since recession days, and now there's 2 in that department. How much time do you think they have to go off and contemplate the translation of your features and benefits templates into their world? None. And even if they do make an attempt at it, more than likely they're going to do it wrong. Not because they're bad people, but they're busy, they're tired, and you're not there to answer the questions. So it just creates a disconnect. The other part of it, from just a pure sales standpoint, is you really want to follow people that are still in the feature benefit fold of selling, because now you can walk in and say, yeah, me too. We do that too, and now get on to more strategic qualifying about what it is they want or need out of your product or service. So it creates a competitive problem. And the last one is that starting with features and benefits, even if you sail through the campaign and win, you're just extending the sales cycle because that translation still has to happen. Whether they do it or you're doing it as part of the process, ongoing communication, it still has to take place. So that's the end of our discussion on feature benefits, but we just don't focus there. There is a role for features and benefits. Remember how we make decisions. The intellectual justification comes from it. Let me give you an example of that. We'll tie it off and then we'll move forward. Where I used to live, we had a neighbor, his name was Tom, had a family of 4, 2 kids. My wife had a horse business, so she had a truck, she had a van, I think she had everything to keep this business going. And we had a caravan. He came over, a family of 4, said, you know, I've really got to get rid of the old station wagon. I think the caravan concept really looks good. I said, hey, my wife's at a horse show this weekend. She took the truck, has to pull the horse with the trailer. It's sitting here, take the keys, drive it for a weekend, see what you think. He brought it back Sunday, he said, that was great. That's really a good vehicle. So my expectation is I'm going to see him in a couple weeks driving a new caravan or something like that, one of the other brands. A couple weeks later on Saturday morning, he drives in. He's in a Mazda Miata. Okay, now for those that don't, that's a convertible. It's a very nice car. 2-seater. And we have a family of 4. Okay, so 2 just got voted off the island, all right, in order to be able to make this the family mobile. So what does he do? And I'm looking at this drive up, and it's got the new tag on the back that's going to be there thanks to our state for about 2 years now, about your new license. And so he jumps out, and I go, is this it? He says, yeah, I just bought it. What do you think of it? I said, well, it's got some unique features, but it's 2 seats light. Completely ignored the comment. What did I get next? I got all the stuff you get in the glove compartment. Okay? It's got 100,000-mile Pirelli tires. It's got an air filter that'll never need changing. It's all the things nobody even knows about, right? Here's where that intellectual justification came from. He'd already signed on the payment plan. The car was his, but he had to justify how and why he bought it. It got 26 miles to the gallon. I mean, who cares, right? It's a Miata. The whole point is this is just a good example of how humans make decisions. Made a very emotional decision at the dealership, but later, to everyone else in his world, he had to justify the decision. So everything you ever wanted to know in the glove compartment came out in that justification as to how and why that was absolutely the best next car for the family. The new smaller family was what was coming out here. Okay, so enough of features and benefits. They play a role, but it's after the decision's been made. Okay, so if we understand that it's really complex out there, that features and benefits don't work, prospects buy for their reasons, not yours, what's the plan? In our roundtable peer group program, our process starts with understanding that selling is just a communication process. Okay, we have some very clear ground zero rules. Selling is just a communication process. So what does that mean? It means we have to describe our business in the prospect's world. If features and benefits, can't touch that, sorry about that, are our world, we have to find a way to describe what we do in the prospect's world. Secondly, because they make emotional decisions, we have to look at what we do and create the emotional profile of our business in their world. That's where we want to go. Okay, so how do we do that? The process, we call the process differentiating value. I'm going to explain it, and we've got a worksheet at the end of the program. Chum's got a worksheet you'll be able to take and use in your business and answer questions. If you have questions about it, please feel free to contact me. But what is differentiating value? We'll go through a couple of definitions, and then we're going to go into an example. Differentiating value is what you do that's unique and better. It's not features and benefits. It's not that. It's what you do that's unique and better in the prospect's world. Here's where we make it emotional. It's important to understand what the prospect loses if they decide not to do business with you. Okay, if you have established your differentiating value in their world, if they decide not to do business with you, that's what they lose. And the third component of differentiating value is it separates what you deliver in the prospect's world from how you get paid. The easy way to understand that is, let's assume for a moment you're selling drill bits. Everybody understands what a drill bit, put it, battery powered drill a hole, right? You're selling drill bits. This is just a quick example. How would you describe a drill bit if you're an engineer? High-speed steel, maybe a carbide tip brazed onto it. Let's see, you'd want to know how straight it is, so you'd have some laser characterization of accuracy of the drill shaft. The width of it, because if I'm looking for 1/4-inch holes, I'd like to know it's 1/4-inch plus or minus 2 microns or something like that. I mean, there's all kinds of ways you can describe to someone coming into your business saying, I'm interested in drill bits. The problem is that 1/4-inch drill bit, if you look at it from the prospect side, they're looking for a 1/4-inch hole. They don't want to own a 1/4-inch drill bit. They're in to buy the drill bit because what they want in their world is a 1/4-inch hole. So at least from the sales standpoint, the first question might be, what are you drilling? You change it. But the point is, their expectation is you deliver in their world a 1/4-inch hole. You get paid by selling them a drill bit. We'll expand on that. That's just a quick snapshot introduction to it. But let's take this forward. There's, on the sheet that you'll have to take with you today, what we identify are the fields you've got to deal with in terms of defining your differentiating value. Remember, differentiating value only exists in the prospect's world. Doesn't exist in your world, only exists in the prospect's world. Now I'll show you how we get to that. But it starts with addressing these 5 questions. What value do you bring? And here's where we make it emotional. How does the absence of your DV show up in their world? Now, I've got an example here of a company we went through with this, and you can see where that comes out. There are a couple of other items that you need to touch on. When does it show up? Where does it show up? And who does it impact most? We're trying to understand the emotional profile of this business not having your differentiating value in their world. That's where we're going. Everybody okay so far? Okay, good. So let's dig into an example. What I want to do, and I promise you we'll finish on time, but we've got to take at least a little deep dive here. Let me paint the scenario for you. You're in Las Vegas. Of course, with this weather, we'd all like to be in Las Vegas. And it's the largest trade show event of your company's industry for the year. We've all seen what Vegas looks like at convention time. You're at the Hilton, you're on the 40th floor, you're the CEO of your company. And you get on the elevator, and of course the doors are closing, but someone steps up and slides them open and gets on. And you've got your badge on, you notice their badge, and it just happens to be, that's the CEO of one of the largest target prospect companies your salespeople have been talking about for years. And you're thinking, oh, great. I'm going to step up today and help sales get the introduction they need to open the door for us to be able to hopefully do some business with this organization. And so the door closes, and this person's from Minnesota too. They're Minnesota nice. They ask the question, what do you do? Okay? And so I set the scenario for a group of execs a couple of years ago. It was a group that gets together once a quarter just for breakfast. And they had the book, and they wanted to ask more about differentiating value. And so I said, all right, here's, first of all, for breakfast, I'll do almost anything. And secondly, I said, as long as I don't have to work, you're going to do all the work. So we're going to go around the table, and everyone's going to airball what they would say to this person in response to the question, what do you do? And so we clicked through, I think there were 8 or 9 there, we clicked through all of the participants. One of the individuals was CEO of an emerging, they were actually in Chicago, not here, he was up as a guest, a company that manufactures complete barcode systems. Now we know, I'm not talking about just the scanner that you see at the retail checkout position, but this is all the software and engineering that goes behind it. So it not only does point of sale, but it tracks back to incoming inventory, managing inventory. It was a manufacturing company, so they had a couple of hundred parts they had to keep track of. It's the whole turnkey system from receiving to sale with invoice, and it operates globally. So it was certified to work in 50 hertz environments. All of the global requirements were bundled into it. And so when we got to this individual, I couldn't get all of it, but I wrote down as much as I could. This is what he said. And I'm not going to go through all that because I don't understand it. But essentially, I think we probably listed about every technical feature benefit we could come up with in describing what we do. Now think about that for a minute from the prospect side of the table. Just got on the elevator. What are you going to do next? You're getting off at 39. Okay? That's the longest day in the world to start there and ride all the way to the lobby floor with this guy in an elevator. You're just taking the gate. Okay? Now here was an opportunity where he could have, this was a hypothetical, we were going around the table, could have really put the ball in play. How do you think the sales department felt when they heard about this? This isn't a long ball. This just made it a lot harder. Because everything you see here is in his world. It has nothing to do with the prospect, it has nothing to do with the market. It's all about the greatness of the business he founded and the product and services he's providing, hardware and software. And they certainly were commendable. I think the business eventually got acquired. So I asked, all right, we have enough time to be able to work on one company's differentiating value. Where would we like to start? Who wants to go? And of course, they all looked at him, which made it a little easier. And he was pretty perceptive. He thought it was time to volunteer. So he raised his hand and said, I think we should work on mine. And we took the worksheet that you'll get, the one-pager, passed it around. We spent about 25 minutes working through all the permutations of how you introduce, if you will, to global players, global manufacturing companies, this turnkey barcode capability. And this is what we came up with. Really straightforward. Now this was 20 minutes of work. But we finally got him to introduce what his company does in terms of the prospect's world, not his world. Now you could have put many things in there, but the real goal was to help customers understand that what you never want to have happen is have your Atlanta sales office take an order at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, the end of day, put it into the system to go to the Fremont, California warehouse, where it's still open, have the order picked, give it to FedEx, and get it delivered back in Atlanta by 10 o'clock the next morning. That's what you want to have happen through a barcode system. What you don't want to be is the sales rep in Atlanta come in at 8 o'clock the next morning and have an email from Fremont that says, how did you ever think we had 5 of those in stock? We had a really good laugh at happy hour last night trying to consider where you invented these parts. You know, that's a very bad day for the salesperson in Atlanta because they're going to call the customer and it's not going to connect. Now that's from the revenue side. You could look at lean manufacturing. You could cut this several different ways depending on the audience you're dealing with. But senior execs, this happened to be the CEO of this company that he was talking to. Success in business at the end of the day is a combination of 2 things. Well, 3 really. Leadership, talent, time, and money. And everything integrates under the curve from there. They understand that. See, part of the goal to keep this at a very high level is to have someone who receives it come back with, that's interesting, how do you do that? Or I'm not sure I understand. What does that mean? Now there's some part of the sales training community that would really send you to the penalty box for doing that because you've caused them to have to ask a question. The interesting part of having them ask a question is we as humans have an expectation. Prospects, when they ask a question, expect an answer. Well, if selling is a communication process, we've just established the first step in starting a sales campaign. We now have communication between the suspect, prospect, however you want to classify it, and the vendor. First time. That's what we're going for here. So we're not trying to create a differentiating value statement that causes some sort of Newcomb consequence where people will just surrender and hand you their wallet. It just doesn't happen that way. Remember the graph with all the serpentine charts of how prospects can research your product or service and your industry. And it's totally transparent. They can come and go and you'll never know they were there. Because only a handful of those sources do you control. The others are free market. So again, what we're looking at here is the ability to describe your business in the prospect's world, to have them understand, at least at first pass, what they give up if they decide not to do business with you or not to pursue it. Make sense? Now, here's what we're doing. We're playing to the emotional side of how people make decisions. We accept that selling is just a communication process, and we want to start the process ideally with getting a question from the prospect. Prospect's going to want to be, a good prospect is going to respond to that. What does that mean? How do you do that? It doesn't matter what comes back. The whole point of getting the question is the fact you've got the communication channel now open. So that's what we're going for. And the higher level you can make it, that tracks better with a higher level audience you might have an opportunity to engage with. These people can integrate under the curve. The problem is you just don't get many swings at it today. And with all the advancements of disruptive technology, the actual human interaction, face-to-face swings at this are getting fewer and fewer and fewer because it's harder to do it. We don't have bot-to-bot sales calls yet, but it's coming. Is anyone using a bot in their business today? Artificial intelligence, call it a digital assistant, virtual assistant. Anyone have that in play in your business today? Great. I'm just curious, what level of implementation are you at?
Well, there's things like just simple things. If someone becomes a new Twitter follower, something that's automated that thanks them for being a Twitter follower, like just automation of something with a response with a customer.
It's the beginning. It's coming. There will be bot-to-bot business. We talk about this a lot in Roundtable. This is a hot topic because it's changing the way the world does sales. But the expectation right now is bot-to-bot activity will be commonplace in 2 years. 2020. It's coming that fast. There's a reason why Salesforce bought 3 different AI companies last year to try to catch up, because a well-placed AI package can eliminate a CRM. Talk about a threat to your business. can happen. So I had the experience, my first real live fire experience with an AI package was at Christmas. Office Max, Office Depot combined, and they had a promotion to our, just a holiday promotion, free freight and everything, some interesting prices. And we needed some things for the office, so we went ahead and placed the order, put it on the credit card. Boxes came in. I brought one home at night. At the holidays, there's a football game every evening. So you can sit down with a cold beverage, turn on the football game, and I thought this will be great. All I had to do was just snap it together. It wasn't like it was a big deal. And I thought that'll be a halftime experiment. So I opened the box, tried to snap it together, realized that one of the components was damaged. And you know how excited you are to realize that you now have to deal with that 800 number for the return. I mean, that could ruin your holiday season, right? So I'm debating about, do I take it back to the office and let somebody else do it or I do it? And I thought, well, I know what's wrong with it. I ordered it. I'll call the 800 number. And it was answered by, it was 9 o'clock at night. It was a woman's voice. I don't remember her first name. We'll call her Margaret or something. And I'm your digital assistant. How may I help you? And she said that fairly quickly. I'm going to guess a lot of people didn't catch, I'm your digital assistant. How can I help you? And I thought, I'm talking to a bot. This is great. So I ran and got another beer and sat down and said, I've got this shipment with defective merchandise in it that I need to return. No problem. Do you have your paperwork? And I'm going, oh, I'm screwed. It's at the office. I said, no, I don't have it with me, but what do you need? She said, do you have the box? Yes. Look at the label. On top right-hand corner is a number, very long number. I need the last 4 digits. Okay. Gave her the 4 digits. She came back and said, are you Carl Moe with CRO Roundtable? I went, wow. And I mean, it was like that. I said, yes, I am. She said, do you want to replace it or return it? I said, I'd like to return it. I'm going to buy the replacement at the store. She said, fine. Just put it all back in the box. Don't seal it. And we'll pick it up between 10 and 12 the day after tomorrow. At your office, just carrier will come in, put the paperwork in, tape it up, you don't have to do anything. It's free return. We'll organize it. I said, that's great. You need anything else? No, that was it. She did have to transfer me to a human to see if the credit card, to validate credit card, that's what she said. Credit card had nothing to do with it. The intent of the transfer was to see if I was satisfied with chatting with a bot, working through this with a virtual assistant. I got everything done with a virtual assistant in about 40 seconds. It took me 3 minutes to get off the phone with a live attendant, okay? That's when the call really went south because English was not her first language. We were having a very difficult time understanding. I didn't want it replaced. It was just, I kept saying, can I go back to the bot? I'd rather go. She understood everything I said. So it's here, folks. It's coming. We're going to, the pundits are suggesting that it'll displace sales. The reality is it's just going to make good salespeople more effective. There's also some research out there right now that says 40% of what salespeople do today can be handled by a bot, a digital assistant. So we're very close to the transition where whatever you have as a standing army of salespeople, you can just about double in terms of overall effectiveness with the AI tools that are coming down the pipe. Okay, so this is how it concluded with our CEO volunteer. Our roundtable rule here is that if you're not clear about what makes you worth more, you're always going to compete on price. The problem with that first chart where you saw all the different channels that a prospect could follow is really the intent of making all that information available to you is to convince you that regardless of what you do, you're a commodity. If we can research you on the internet and find out everything we want to know, including pricing and complaints, and you see everything on the blogs that are out there today, the presumption is if it's already available and available to everyone, you're a commodity. And in our program, what we work on is having that prospect understand that if what I lose by not doing business with you is so toxic to my business, I really don't want to go there, then you're not selling on price. You're selling on really what you deliver to the marketplace. It's a subtle change, but it's what keeps you out of the column of being commoditized. So our rule here is differentiating value is the tool to bring into your business so that your communications and those are narrowing in frequency with real live prospects, are based on having them understand in their world what it is you do. That's the goal. That's what we're trying to work on. The Chief Revenue Officer's role, as I said, it's an emerging, gaining popularity with executive teams. This is how we view it at Roundtable. The CRO's role is you really have to get all of those gears synchronized. This is not a test for a mechanical engineer, by the way. I'm not going to ask you which are the sun gears and which are the planetary gears here. The goal from the CRO is you've got to get all of these synchronized so that you can develop, I'll do this right, the growth strategy down here. All of these have to be working to take it out to the market. So that's why understanding your differentiating value and bringing that inside so that your employee groups understand what you deliver in the prospects world is even more powerful. Rather than have them talk about gears and cams and all kinds of internal lean objectives, they're part of the job. We're not saying don't do that. We're just saying it's a lot more effective when all of the employees understand your DV in the marketplace of why you're doing what you're doing. Roundtable topics, I get one, Chum said I could have one commercial slide. What we do at Roundtable, we're in our 4th month, we have monthly meetings for execs, for CROs. To date, we always start off January just reviewing everyone's DV positioning and messaging, somewhat like what we've done here, so that they've got all their new products and all their new arguments, if you will, for new services defined in the prospects world. We had a chance to do some investor presentations, work on those with some of our groups. These are organizations that are either doing an additional round of financing or getting ready to do an IPO. So that part of it was brought in. By the way, raising money is a sales call. And we found that if you're really clear about what your differentiating value is, it becomes very easy to explain to a potential investor how and why they might want to get involved with your business and what the potential upside is for it. We did some incentive plan structure and equity options. A lot of companies that are not publicly owned, of course, equity is a potential for compensation. But the incentive plan structure change was driven by the advent of disruption in electronics in the marketplace. There's a huge movement underway across the country to transition from field reps, which are fairly expensive to maintain and take care of, and are limited by daily productivity because they're traveling, they're trying to get appointments. It's the old way of selling. And what they're doing is transitioning field reps to inside reps. The ratio is between 2 and 3 to 1. For every field rep you replace inside, you can add up to 3 reps on a direct cost basis, equal cost basis. And with all the new tools, the new electronic tools, those individuals, the ones that are tracking it and have a large number of inside sales talent people today, they're touching, on average, between 120 and 140 deals a day. Goes down. So there's no way to replicate that out in the marketplace today, and it's harder and harder to have face-to-face events, so we might as well bring them inside and arm them up to be able to go out and do that. We're also talking about AI for sales, just what we covered here. We know it's coming. Projections 2 years out, maybe. People are working with it today. There's a lot of argument in favor of trying it to learn just how you're going to integrate it. There's a lot of front-end work to get it in. And these are hot topics. These are things that we work on at Roundtable. So we always end with thought for the day. I like this one. We know where good judgment comes from. It comes from experience. So, experience, what's that all about? Well, that's the result of bad judgment, okay? That's where you get the lesson. So our message about Roundtable is you can come to Roundtable and feed off everyone else's experience profile so that you don't have to go through all of those same changes there. So that's what we do. Questions? Either about differentiating value, your business, competition. Boy, easy group. Rick, oh no, Rick, come on. All right, go ahead.
Okay, so one of the goals for Club E is to give folks things that they can take back to the office and do different. You helped us with the differentiating value and kind of positioning.
Let's get those out.
If
Yeah.
that's at the top of the list or near top of the list, what would be kind of the next second thing down that would be the common mistakes people make poor judgment here. What else might you send everybody home with in terms of don't do this, common mistake, will save a lot of pain and trouble if you avoid it?
Starting with differentiating value, can we start?
Second one down.
Second one down. We work with a lot of companies to help them understand communication. And that sounds a little rhetorical, but it isn't about what you say in sales, it's about what you ask.
What you what?
What you ask. And so I would say number 2, right below that, is aligning the interview, prospect interview, which is qualifying, aligning the qualifying around your differentiating value. And if I say it, you're not going to remember it or believe it. I mean, let's ask the group. How often do you believe 100% of the time everything a sales rep tells you? Oh boy. Okay. Well, that's the problem. So if I understand my DV, I will kill it if all I do is go out and tell people how great we are. What we need to do is craft our communication delivery of that so that we open the door with a question and don't revert back to the feature benefit campaigns that many of us grew up with when we first started in sales, but continue the questioning dialogue around your differentiating value. That's what we expand on. And so understanding it is kind of a breakthrough. It's sort of a powerful assessment of how the market views you, but now we need to translate that to the qualifying questions of what has to come next in the sales process. A lot of it is outlined in the book, Chief Revenue Officer. If you're interested, it's available on Amazon, and I have a couple of copies here you're welcome to take today. Please. I'm sorry?
Oh, I want a copy.
Oh! I'm already in service mode, and we haven't started here. Very good.
I'd like one too.
Oh! I should sell these. There's a thought. Wow. Yeah.
I have a question.
Okay, just one. No, go ahead. Well, Chom's really watching me on time here, so you're going to get a 3-minute answer.
Okay. All right. My question is, you can extend it into how many questions?
Oh, I can't do that.
My question really has to do, you've been talking a lot about products, selling products.
Services, same thing.
Well, I'm not so sure, because some of us in here sell services. And services, selling value in services is quite different than selling a product. Product really has, you can quantify a product's value, but you can't really quantify a service's value, I don't think. It's very difficult to sell. You can't really say that I can measure my value, and here's how I can do it. I would argue that you can't.
Anyone want to take that?
Well, I
I'm-
would say
I mean,
that
please.
you just delivered a service, and I found great value in what you spoke, and I didn't buy a
But
product.
perhaps someone else would disagree. I mean,
I've sold both throughout my career, and I disagree.
you
It's-
disagree.
Yeah, I mean, there are some different, you might present your value proposition on your service a little bit differently than a product. It isn't as feature-based, but it's still basically the relationship, asking the questions, finding where the pain is, and then developing a values point. The
Well,
process is,
I still have
it's
1
like
minute.
chocolate ice cream versus fudge ice cream. It's a little different, but not much.
You have to have someone back you up. You can't just say, I deliver this value. It is, I can't prove that I am better than you are, for example.
But you
unless-
can't necessarily on a product either, depending on how it's deployed.
I would actually not be obsessed with better. I would start to look with how am I different.
You know?
And if it's really a perplexing issue, you can survey your customers. We do that. Here's why. They're absolutely clear about why they do business with you. It's not an accident in their world that they're doing business with you. They know why they're doing business with you. So if we're having trouble with it, you can go to the customer and the customer will absolutely clarify in their words, in their world, why they do business with you. Because there's a reason. To the extent, and we always have some folks that say, I don't think I've got any DV. And if it's true, you're competing on price. That's what you're competing on. But we know in those situations where we've had a chance to get involved and survey the customers are very clear about how and why they do business with you. That's the reality of business. And in many times, it's very subtle, and it's not something you're even aware of. But they're very clear about it. Very clear about it. Okay, one more? Is there one more question? Are we there? Well, I want to wish you a very successful year. And for those of you that don't have rust on your hockey blades, the Wild are doing tryouts at 3 o'clock this afternoon over the Excel. We'd like all your participation before Friday's game. We need all the help we can get, folks. Thanks, Chum. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone, for coming. We'll see you May 18th or at the Minneapolis Club.